Good morning, scholars. I believe invited classes, young man. Thank you. We should all be here, Ms. Dodson, all of our invited classes. I'm sorry? Okay, so we have a few students coming down. Quite a few students getting ready to perform. We're all excited. So good morning to everyone. And welcome to our very special guest, IS 59, Springfield Gardens Intermediate School, where scholars soar. We are here on this 28th day of March, a day during Women's History Month, to acknowledge the power of literacy. I am Principal Greg, and our assistant principals at IS 59 are Ziona Brooks Dunson. Miss Dunson, wave your hand, she's at the back. And Assistant Principal Clarence Darby, who is out at a workshop this morning. I'd like to welcome any parents, educators, scholars, and our special guests. Among our distinguished guests this morning are, of course, Ms. Cheryl Wills, who is a television journalist, and author. And also the author of the book many of you are holding in your hands. Also with us, I'm not quite sure of what everyone on this list looks like, but I will call her names. Miss Emmanuel Robinson. She is of the Wills Publishing and Productions, Project Development Manager. Raise your hand. Okay, he's not here. Miss Emmanuel Robinson. Dr. Shango A. Blake. He's not here at this time. Adrian Straker, I met her, Miss Adrian Straker. Miss Adrian Straker is the president of ABNY. ABNY is the Association of Black Educators of New York. And just so you understand, scholars, what this is all about, you know, we talk about equity for all, right? That's one of the things we seek for all our students, right? And part of that, of bringing that into fruition, is having a curriculum that represents and that will teach you about your ancestry, about the contributions of African Americans, of Blacks in general, to our country and to the world. So a coalition, meaning a group of people from different organizations, government officials, educators, CBOs. They have come together and they are working towards developing such a curriculum so that new scholars can make the type of connection that Ms. Wills made when she researched her lineage and discovered that her great-great-great-grandfather Sandy, who was a slave, escaped with other slave brothers and fought in the Civil War and made a great cut. I think we should give him a hand. So it's important that we know, right, our lineage and know of the great achievements. Ms. Wills also speaks of her father and her mom. I really enjoyed, I felt like I got to know her mother through reading her book. But what I love most is how she made that connection to her great-great-great-grandfather, his accomplishments, and her dad's accomplishments. And that's what I tell you all the time in social studies. You must make those connections as you read about history to what's happening now. So we are excited about that. We also have with us, hopefully, Ms. Nina Simone Staker. We have Lucero Batista. Mariana Sano of the United Way. We have Cheryl Wills of the Wakeman Agency. She's an administrative assistant. And we have, of course, our photographer, Michael Watts. So these are some of our distinguished guests who are with us this morning. And we are excited. We await every word of wisdom, all of the information you bring, and the interaction you will have with our scholars. So at this time, I would like to introduce one more time to the podium, Ms. Adrienne Straker.
Thank you, Councilman Green. It's a pleasure. It is a privilege to be here. So I am a retired educator, and I'm excited to be in a school and be around students and scholars. So I need the scholar energy. Can you bring some Thank you. I thought I was missing something because you were a little quiet. I'm not going to bore you too much because we want to get to the main event. I just wanted to share a little bit about what we're here for. Your principal shared with you a little bit about Black Studies, about the Black Studies curriculum. I just want to give you a little bit of a tidbit of why it's so important. And I'm going to steal something from my colleague who is not here with us, Dr. Shango Blake. He's a Queens resident, so I feel confident that you'll be okay with me doing a little bit of stealing from you. It's not stealing because I'm giving him credit. So let's imagine that I took a picture. We've got photographers here. Took that picture, held it up, took a picture of everybody in this room, showed you the picture. You know the first thing you would do? You would look for yourself in that picture. You would look for yourself in that picture. And what a terrible thing if, you know how those little apps you have where you could remove someone from the picture? What if I took your picture, your face out of that picture? How terrible would it be if you were looking at a picture of a room that should have had you in there and I took your picture out? Well, that's what history has done to Black people. So we're trying to right the wrong of history. Because if you tell the story of American history, it should include everyone, all of our contributions. And you can't tell the story of American history without including Black history. Can you say that? And I borrowed that. It's not really plagiarism because I told you that that's the origin story, and I credited my colleague with sharing that. So that's just a little bit of framing of why it's important that Black Studies is included. And Black Studies curriculum is what we, the group called EEAP, Education Equity Action Plan Coalition, is bringing through the Black Studies curriculum. So can we have a shout out for that? I want to see your story in the story of American history and also the history of the globe. Our history goes way back. Can we hear that? Way back. Way back. We are more than just America. We go all around the globe. Can we talk about that? We go back to Africa. We go all the way through Europe. We go through the Caribbean. How many Caribbean folks are in here? All right. See? We got a lot of history to talk about. So brace yourself. It's coming. Hopefully you'll still be in school by the time some of you experience it this year. You're in District 29, so you might be seeing it this year, but you'll definitely be seeing it next year. Brace yourself, because the next person you're going to hear is a really famous, how many of you see News 1? So we were at an elementary school maybe about an hour ago. They're not up at 10 o'clock. I guarantee you there's some of you that are watching News 1 at 10 o'clock at night. How many of you know Cheryl Wills? How many of you know that Cheryl Wills is not just a news reporter, she's a show reporter. She has In Focus. She's an author. She's about to be a documentarist. She's a historian. She's a researcher. Can I go on and on and on about how important she is to Black history? She's been on the news for decades. I won't tell you how many decades, but more than one decade. She's been making contributions to the history and the information that we've been receiving in our own lives, giving us the facts. You can tell me facts from fiction. The facts that we've been receiving, not just on cable news, but all throughout the news, in not just New York, but New York and beyond. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to you our very own New York ones and broader New York area, Cheryl Wills. I believe we're having a performance first. So after the performance, you'll be hearing from Cheryl Wills. And you can
So in honor of Women's History Month, to celebrate Women's History Month, to celebrate our renowned guest, Ms. Cheryl Wills, as well as her mom, Ms. Ruth Wills, our father, the dance department, will put on a performance, Strong Black Woman, I believe it's called. And at this time, Ms. Joseph, our dance teacher, will take the podium with us.
Do we have another one of these mics?
Beautiful. What? Beautiful Black woman. What do you see? I see an African queen.
Beautiful Black woman. What do you see?
Beautiful Black woman. What do you see? I see a lady with the highest intelligence of all.
Beautiful Black woman. What do you see? I see a lady who has the sweetest smile at the end of the world.
Beautiful Black woman. How about me?
Beautiful Black woman. What do you see?
Beautiful beautiful black woman. Well, how about me?
What'd she do for that? One more to come.
So at this time, we need to be quiet. I want the performers to know that while they're getting ready backstage, Preston will introduce Ms. Wills formally because he prepared. And once all dancers are done, Ms. Wills, you will take this. Thank you, Preston.
Good morning, IS59 family. My name is Preston Christian, and I am one of the many young ambassadors in IS59 Springfield Gardens. Before we start, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Ms. Cheryl Wills and members of her party. I'd like to say it is my pleasure to introduce you to our guest of honor. Ms. Cheryl Wills is an award-winning television personality for New York One. She is one of the station's most recognizable journalists for breaking news and special coverages. Ms. Wills is also known and admired for her many other interests and talents, including author, public speaker, blogger, and mentor. Thank you, Ms. Wills, for choosing IS59 as one of the many stops on your book tour. We are excited and honored to have you here. We are looking forward to a very interesting session. Thank you.
Cheryl Wills is a nationally recognized award-winning television personality in such news. Flagship national news network New York One News, which is aired on select cable systems throughout the United States and in Japan. She is also the host of the talk show and Focus with Cheryl Wills. Born and raised in New York City, Cheryl is the daughter of firefighter Terrence Wills, who worked with Engine 1 Ladder Room 4 in Manhattan. The eldest of 5 children, Cheryl is a mentor to her brother Terrence Wills Jr., who was diagnosed with autism as a toddler, and she is guiding his career as a cartoonist. Cheryl Wills has been with New York One News since its launch in 1992 and is one of the station's most recognizable journalists for breaking news and special coverage. Wills is also a popular, engaging public speaker and has appeared before audiences across the world. Cheryl has also reported from the White House. She is also a blogger for the Huffington Post and contributes to Essence.com. As a television journalist, Cheryl Wills has been a reliable guide through everything from the terrorist attacks on September 11th to moderated televised discussions with the President of Barack Obama.
I'm sorry, the podium needs to be. That was a quick intermission. So this dance is actually called a melting pot. So what I did, I took different movements from African dances, original African dances, and because we are a melting pot of many different nations, and that's what you saw. And you saw two different versions, but yet they met back up at the end.
I just wanted to let the scholars know that in her book, you must read it, Miss Wills talks about how her grandma danced in church. And she made that connection to our African dance. When she swiveled those hips, it was all connected to African dance. So we just want. No podium, okay. We don't need a podium. She doesn't need a podium. She doesn't want a podium. Thank you. She's gonna get close to okay. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
We can bring down the screen, and I want to tell you, I have a surprise. I didn't know I was going to do this, but after seeing the dancers, they're going to be on my newscast tonight at 10 o'clock. They're going to be on the news tonight because everyone needs to know the talent that's in this school. I am 59, where you at? I am so excited to be here with you. Y'all got a lot of energy. Let me say it again because they just came in. Dancers, you were so amazing that you're going to be on New York 1 tonight at 10 o'clock. So let me just say this. We have a lot to talk about. I'm excited to hear from you. I'm not just going to present. I'm going to be looking forward to you raising your hands when I give you the cue, because I need you to help me amplify this story. This story is powerful, it is true, and I am excited to be here. Let me tell you something. I grew up in Queens just like you. I grew up in Rockaways. I went to PS 225. I grew up in public housing. No one thought I would make it. I was invisible in school. I didn't have any leaders of color when I went to no black women, no black men, no Latino, no Asian. No one looked like me, and we did not celebrate Black History Month when I went to school. And so a big reason why I'm here, and I want to salute your amazing principal, Miss Gray. For you to see a beautiful woman like this, you don't know how lucky you are. I wish I had Miss Gray. We barely had women leaders when I was in school. That's how far back, that's how old I am. But now it's a better day, it's a brighter day. Now we see us. And that's what this story is all about, seeing us in our history. And let me tell you one last thing. There's a movement. When you hear me giving my lesson, I want you to pay close attention, because there's a movement in this country right now to erase our ancestors' presence in this country. And today I've come to IS 59 to take it back with you. just a little better. You know I'm on New York One. I know a lot of you haven't. But you may not know, and this is where we can have some fun. This is where our mascot can come and run around and go crazy for the next 5 minutes. You may not know that I am on major TV shows in Hollywood and network TV, in addition to what I do on New York One. Maybe you've seen me in the hit movie Morbius, the Marvel movie. I closed down the movie. And let me tell you, I'm the closing scene in this movie. Hollywood likes real reporters and anchors. They feel actors can't do us right. So I play myself also in the movie 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman. And this is a scene from that movie. I miss Chadwick Boseman so much. I'm in Ghostbusters! Proud of myself. There was no empowerment for girls of color when I went to school. But by my will, I made it happen. And I want every young lady and man in this room to know that if you dream it, you could be it. When you see me on Law and Order SVU, and there I am playing the reporter on the show, and here I am in multiple scenes. You know what? It's not where you start in this life, it's where you finish, baby. I'm going to do a quick roll call of all the celebrities I met. I think we can have some fun with this mascot. You can run around and get your workout if you want to. But I worked with people like Whoopi Goldberg, Missy Copeland, the famous ballerina of the day, Jennifer Hudson, and Common, the hip-hop Marty Hardrock, Oprah Winfrey. I know him, I've interviewed him, and when I interviewed him at Barclays Center, before he left, a little kid in Brooklyn came up to him and said, "I love you, can you teach me how to dance?" And he turned up the music in his band and let this kid dance for him. Chaka was 19 years old, now he's 20, but he is the nicest guy. Which was pretty cool. And then he danced for me. I said, "Oh my goodness, okay, Chaka." So you know he's known for his moves and he's known for. Stop it! He's one of the hottest in hip hop right now. do a selfie. You just don't do that. So he told me I could stand and take a picture of him. But the most important thing is that President Obama gave me this. The United States of America honors the memory of Sandy Wills, signed the 44th President of the United States. This is the first time that my great-great-great-grandpa has been recognized. And now, if the mascot can take his seat, gentlemen, thank you. You can take your seat. Thank you so much. And let me get real serious right now. We had fun. You got to know me a little better and the people I've met along my 35-year journey. But now let's get deadly serious, and if we could bring it quiet, because I will be asking some of you to come up in a few minutes. When I sat in PS 225 in Queens, auditorium just like this, I had no idea that I was related to a slave who freed himself and then became a soldier in the Civil War. And it upsets me, but not in a negative way, in a positive way, to come here and remind all of you that you are truly, I don't care what your background is, you are truly descendants of greatness. And the ancestors are counting on you to be your best selves. When my father was killed in a motorcycle accident when I was 13, that was the worst tragedy. I couldn't even see past tomorrow. A 13-year-old with 4 siblings, my mother, as Miss Gray read in my book, my mother became a 38-year-old widow. My father, dead at 38, killed in a motorcycle accident on the Williamsburg Bridge. And little old me sitting on the front row saying goodbye to my father, they opened the casket and I saw his face exploding. And I, as a little 13-year-old, there's no words to describe the pain that I felt. I had all these dreams. I hope you have dreams too. I had so many dreams of what I wanted to be, but once I saw that, I could barely see. It hurt me that much. Sometimes things can hurt you in life, even when you are a child. And I'm here to remind you that nothing can get in the way of your dream. That you own as long as you live. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let a tragedy try to say you need to now wallow in it. Wallow means you just sit and give up and cry and feel sorry for yourself. If there's one thing I never did, I never, in my darkest moments, let go of my dream. That was all I had. Like I said, I grew up in public housing. Some of you may know Hamels and Rockaway Beach. It was tough growing up. This was not the first tragedy in my life. I had an uncle that was murdered in cold blood by his wife. Never saw my little cousins again. I have seen and walked through some very difficult times. But as you saw from what I wasn't showing that to show off. I was showing that to show you what you can do in this life, no matter what. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter who walked away from you. You can do it. The trick is, people want you to think you can. They want you to take yourself out of the game, and when you do that, you leave more room for the next one to take your spot. The only one that can stop you, especially at this phenomenal, magical stage in your lives. And this is a magical stage in your lives. You know why? Because you have a clean slate. And it's up to you what you do with it. You can either hide in the corner and say, I'm too scared, or you could be like me and say, I may be a little scared, but I'm going to take a chance. I didn't realize my grandfather, who lived in Tennessee, was a man that saw terrible things. He lived in a time where every door told him whether he could walk through it or not. We don't know that life, but my grandfather did. That door would say colored only. That door would say white only. So what that did to every black person in America in the South who had to walk through these hateful Jim Crow laws, they were pounding in their head, you're less than. You can't even walk through the same door as us. You can't even drink in the same water fountain as us. You can't go to the same schools that we do. You can take our leftovers. That's the world my grandfather lived in. It got to me. This ain't my story alone. So many of you have the same exact story. You may or may not know it. And then for my great-grandfather, it was worse for him. Whew, like Emmett Till, they could walk in your house and say, we think he did it. Bye-bye, you're being executed today. Imagine living like that. This is what my family lived through in the United States of America, and it gets worse. Nobody knew that we were the great-great-great-grandchildren. My father didn't know, grandpa didn't know, his father didn't know. We were all descendants of greatness. And the reason I'm supposed to be at work right now, but I'd rather be here with you because when I was in junior high school 180, I sat in social studies class, bored to death, looking up at the ceiling, waiting for lunch and recess. And when they taught me about the Civil War, nobody told me my family was there. Nobody even suggested that I had a history that was worthy of further exploration. So when they taught me about my family's own contributions in this country, I sat there like, oh, can't be talking about me because they didn't even talk about black people in the Civil War. They talked about Lincoln, they talked about military maneuvers, they talked about rivers and everything else except the black people that were caught in the middle, who waited to see what's going to happen if the Confederates win. Will we be slaves forever? No one explained it to me like that. And my family was smack in the middle of it. How do I know? Check this out. When my grandfather was 10 years old, he was sold to Edmund Wills. He ran away, and then he joined the Union Army during the Civil War when he was 23. I'm the first one in more than 100 years to see his enlistment record. I am the first one since this was filled out in 1863 to lay eyes on this. This is what it means to be an empowered woman. This is what it means to take your history back. And I hope when you grow up, you will own your history and stand firm. You're not too young to get that. When you sit in history class, if you are not told, you ask what the involvement of the African peoples was, because we've been everywhere. Look, he was 23. He stood 5'9.5" tall. His complexion black, eyes black. They wrote down everything. He didn't go alone. He went with 5 men that were like brothers to him. And these are 4 of their enlistment records. Andy, James, Mac, and Richard. Look at this, and now I'm about to ask my first question. Listen carefully. They filled out their names. They all grew up with my grandpa Sandy on the Wills plantation in Tennessee, age 19, 18, 18, 18. And they had the audacity. The military had the audacity to put occupation slave. That's how I felt the first time I saw that. My heart fell into my shoes. Occupation slave. Over and over to show you how sick. You're not too young to catch this. We need you when you grow up to challenge unjust laws. You're not sitting in this school because you ain't got nothing to do. We need you for when this kind of madness takes over. When you become adults, to say this is wrong. This is why you're in school, to get courage, to get education, to be able to challenge. Because, my friends, this was normal. Miss Gray is raising leaders that will challenge. You know what's happening in Florida right now? They're erasing the black presence out of every textbook in America. We need you to grow up and say, not on our watch. This is why you're in this school every day. Not just to have recess and lunch and memorize. We need you to get courage because no one had courage here. Everyone backed down. The whole world knew slavery was wrong, but everyone backed down and said, oh, but I'm getting rich off of it and I don't want to rock the boat. And millions of black people lived through this living hell. And everyone up to every president until Lincoln was afraid to challenge it. One of you should grow up to be at least president, senator, many of you, senator, be in public service because that's where the power is. Not one, many. When people are silent, this happens. Occupation slave. But when it came to my grandpa Sandy, and here's where I need to see someone raise their hand. He was a slave too. Occupation farmer. I want someone who's a deep thinker to tell me why Grandpa Sandy Wills, who was owned by the same man as owned by Edmund Wills, Hayward County, Tennessee, owned by Edmund Wills. These men were like brothers. They all grew up on the plantation together. But why did my grandpa have farmer as occupation while the others had slave? Would you come and join us, please, my darling? Yes. Can we give her a hand? She's our first one. And everyone who comes up is going to get a little prize from me. How are you? What's your name, beautiful? Taryn. Hey, Taryn. Taryn, I can tell you're a brilliant young lady. Shh. Why do you think, Taryn? Himself free. That's right. Give her a hand. And let's go deeper, Taryn. Imagine I'm Grandpa Sandy, and all of his friends hear that they're writing, all right, name, occupation slave. My grandpa says, farmer. What do you think my grandpa Sandy thought just as they went to put slave down?
That he wasn't gonna let himself be oppressed by the name slave.
He wasn't going to allow himself to be oppressed, even though he couldn't read or write. And while you're here, beautiful, there was a law. Let's get this out the way right now. And if this doesn't make you an excellent student for the rest of your lives, nothing will. An ugly part of slavery was that they created laws in the South saying, and I quote, never let Black people read or write. Ken, why do you think they did that?
So that the Black people couldn't read their rights and know how to fight for themselves.
That's exactly right. Look at her. Great job. Can we give her a round of applause? So they counted on these men not being able to read or write, so they could write anything. But my grandpa Sandy give him so much respect. That means he was listening to what, when you can't read or write, it's almost similar to a disability. You don't really know what's going on. It wasn't his fault. He grew up in a world that literally stopped him from being educated. This is not my story alone. Each of you have ancestors who are looking over you right now saying, you mean you can go to school? You mean you have a fabulous principal like this? So wait, you have an amazing teacher like this? You have powerful teachers who are giving their whole lives to you? And you are just doing enough to get by? As we are gathered here today, I want to remind each and every one of you the importance of being your best selves. Because one day, I know it's far off, your children, should you decide, they will look at you when you're saying, do your best, go to school, and they're going to look at you and say, did you? Did you? So you being an excellent student, it's going to carry down one day, very quickly. Grandpa Sandy was successful in the Army. The Civil War ended and his freedom came. And they gave him this. Again, he couldn't read a word of it. They gave him an honorable discharge certificate. Imagine, it's like you graduating from high school and they say, congratulations, you walk across the stage and they give you something and you're like, this was an American tragedy. Be your best selves in this school. Your ancestors are counting on you. You can't see them, but I promise you they see you. And they're saying, do this for me. Do it for me. You may not know, but I wanted to write my name and they wouldn't even let me. I wanted to learn math and they literally got together in a room, created a law and wouldn't let me. And then they threw me in an unmarked grave so you wouldn't know me. Be your best selves. Be your best. Grandpa Sandy went on. And it's been my honor to write many books about him. Die Free is the first book I wrote, children's books, The Emancipation of Grandpa Sandy, and then this one. It is Women's History Month, and allow me to close with this, and then I'm going to invite you up. to ask me any question you like because I'm excited to hear from you. I really am. Emma was an extraordinary woman. Can you imagine a girl who was enslaved? She's about 10 years old. The Civil War breaks out. She sees it happening in her neighborhood in Tennessee. When it ends 5 years later, she's a teenager. And now she's like, I'm free. Like you beautiful girls that just danced. Imagine watching slavery end while you're going through puberty. And then you're about 15, 16, and you're like, I'm free. I'm going to start a whole new legacy. She married my grandpa Sam, the Civil War veteran. And together they were starting a new legacy of freedom. A legacy that would lead to me. Very quickly, Emma was owned by this man. When I do research, I do research. This man owns my family. Ain't that something? His name was John Birdie Moore. There are not many people that will stand before you and say, let me show you the portrait of the man who enslaved my family. You can live a long time and never see anything like this. This man got rich off of selling black bodies. Let that sink in. Not only did he sell them, but every time he bought one, he said, now you take my name. Emma was Emma Moore. Sandy was bought by Edmund Wills, Sandy Wills. So many of us, I'm not the only one here, so many of us in this room carry the name of a slaveholder right now. But you don't know who. You don't know who committed the crime. As far as I'm concerned, this is a mugshot of a criminal who did a crime against my family. He got rich, and the only thing that the United States demanded was that he pay taxes on his human property. But let me tell you about Emma, and then I want to hear your question. Emma was extraordinary, and I wish I knew about her when I was your age, because when my father died, I would have thought of Emma, and I wouldn't have been so sad. If I had known about Sandy, I would have been a better student, but I was kind of lazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. And Emma did something extraordinary. When she had her first child, now check this out, this is true and it's in the book you have. When Emma had her first child, she said, oh my goodness, I am having the first free baby in the family. Oh, I want to write down their name and birth date, but I don't know how to read or write. She went to the people that once owned her true story and said, check this out. The tables have turned, and I need you, since I can't read or write in my Bible, please, the name of my child, first and last name, and his birthday. Joe Moore said, okay. He wrote William Wills, he put his birthday February 3rd, 1870. She said, thank you. And she kept her little Bible, a Bible she couldn't read. She had her second child, Alex, same thing. Write in my Bible for me. Now, stop and think about how my grandma Emma took her power back with that little simple gesture. I can't write it, you do it. You got the education, you got the money, you got the land. Write my children's names in this book. They did it every time. When Emma's husband, my great-great-great-grandpa Sandy, died, she was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? He was the one out working. I was the one home taking taking care of the kids at home. And then she realized, oh, I could get a check every month for a benefit, a pension. And she said, hey, check this out. I need you to do me another favor. Write the government and tell them that I need this benefit because a soldier died and they paid the widows of soldiers. All right? And if you stop and think about it, that was a real aggressive move. This is 1890, we're talking. Black women were supposed to be quiet and clean floors and clean toilets and clean kitchens and cook. They weren't supposed to be walking up to other people saying, hey, do this for me. No, no. So my grandmother had a sense of dignity and integrity. You see, they don't teach you this in school. That's why we're here. To teach you the truth about who you are and the brilliance and magnificence that's running through your veins right now. So the government immediately rejected her claim. You know what my grandmother did? She hired a lawyer. And this is Exhibit A. I cried when I first saw this. Emma hired a lawyer. And the lawyer wrote down everything, the names of her children that were in the Bible. And guess what? After she fought back, she won. Emma won her for herself and her 9 children. But this part, I heard somebody say that part. This part is what I want to leave you with. Emma had to sign the legal document, like anybody. Her lawyer wrote all of this. She didn't write this. This is in the file in the military. And when I made a copy, it blew my mind. She tells her whole life. That's how I was able to write a book. Everything that she went through. She said it, and her lawyer wrote it in the legal deposition. But she still had to sign it. And they wrote her name for her, Emma Wills. And in between her first and last name, and I hope you catch this, they wrote her mark, M-A-R-K. This is not just my story. And my grandma, my beautiful grandma Emma, took a pen and awkwardly scribbled the only letter she knew her entire life. A little X. When I saw that X, IS 59, it hurt my feelings so bad because I thought my great-great-great-grandmother only knew one letter her whole life. And the country she lived in did this to her. Don't get mad, baby. Get even. Because I am here to take back the X and redefine it for everyone in this auditorium. Let's make the X be ultimate! And the same family still owns it. The same family still owns it. They walked away with everything, generational wealth, millions of dollars in land, erased my family's hard work. My family walked away with generational poverty and had to run away from the the town because of the terrorism. That's why I was born in New York City. Know how you got here. So when I found this out very quickly, I couldn't believe they still sell the same cotton my family sold. They still sell the same cotton that my family planted during slavery. And here's John Bertie Moore. Here's his wife. Here's one of his children. You see the nice frame? In the South, where they didn't have cemeteries, they would bury on the hill of their property, more than 1,000 acres. They would take a hill, bury people. You see the graves? So when I found out that the same family still owned it, you know I want to find Sandy and Emma. I said, well, where's my family? And I got a lot of, And because I'm from Queens, I stepped up and said, where's my family? And after lots of determination, because this is why it's important to know about your ancestors, because I said, did Emma give up? No. Did Emma give up? No. Did Sandy give up? No. Then should I give up? That's the guy that helped Emma fill out all of her papers. Finally, I said, well, I need to meet the people. And I got to tell you, real quick, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to meet the people that once owned my family. This is when slavery becomes real. This is when history becomes real. And even though I'm a New Yorker, they're still in Tennessee, I took a deep breath and I said, I could do this. I could do this. And I could hear my ancestors. A part of me was so mad this spring. A part of me was so mad. But I heard my ancestors say, what are you mad about? You never lived through slavery. You never had anybody rape you. You never had any of the stuff you went through. Face them with your head held high. So I did that. I kept my head held high. I was very respectful because let me tell you a secret that you can hold for the rest of your life. When you treat people with respect and you hold your head high, you get anything you want. But it's when you start clowning that people go, gotcha. So I held my head high. And I presented myself just like Emma. And I said, take me to where my family is buried. Do you see a marker here? No. Do you see anything indicating that a Civil War soldier was buried there? No. Do you see anything other than leaves and trees? No. How did that make me feel? Sad, angry, upset, frustrated. Thank you for talking back to me. So I told the family, and do you believe they saved one slave house? And it turned out to be my family. This is a miracle I'm sharing with you. This is why we're making a movie about it. And so I said a little prayer. I said, you know what? I need to do something. And it came to me immediately. Something said, hire an archaeologist and find your family and break it to them that you're going to have to go with a team of archaeologists. And this is my archaeologist. And if you look at their faces, they're like, oh my God. There I am. And my archaeologist said, Cheryl has paid me. And we're going to dig in this hill and we're gonna take a sample of their DNA, of all the bones there. Because we're gonna find this Civil War soldier. And they looked at the land, they cleared the leaves, they cleared all the debris. The archaeologist threw a drone up in the air and took measurements. And then he started going with ground penetrating radar. And then he said, Cheryl, Grandpa Sandy and Emma's one of these yellow rectangles. Don't give up! Don't give up! So where I am now, we all had to stop, get a permit from the county. That's what we're doing right now. But my friends, the next time I see you, I will have Sandy and Emma removed from this hill and reburied with honor in Memphis National Cemetery. I want to thank y'all. Y'all are the best audience I ever had. But y'all are the truth. Hands up for a few quick questions. You can ask me anything about this story or my career. I am very excited to hear from you. My man Preston, come on up. Come, please, yes, I see you. 1, 2 in the back, come. Yes, come. We're gonna start this way. I know I went over time, but we having a good time, right? Yes. All right. Okay. So I had such a good time, and I want to hear from you. Hi, Preston. Tell me your question.
So I want to know what are the best questions to ask when asking people questions when you're a host and why?
Okay. So you owe me on the job, right? So I ask really powerful questions because it comes naturally to me, Preston. It really does. And it's a part of me that's very fearless. So I like to ask questions. I like to understand what makes people tick. Thank you, Preston. Appreciate you. And give him a hand. Dana asked a great question. Why do I want to know more about my family? It all started with the death of my father. You know, the parent, the friend, the sibling, it's like a hole is in your heart, right? And you want to know, oh my gosh, we didn't get to finish what we started. Like, I didn't get to finish knowing my father. So then, to know my father, I had to know where he came from. And that led me back to him. My father was born in Hayden County, Tennessee. My father is buried in Calverton National Cemetery. Yeah, my father died in New York, but this is the mystery that I believe the ancestors have led me to. So this is a miracle. This is why we're making a movie about it. And by the way, anyone that follows me, Oprah, if you Google my name, Cheryl Oprah, she's doing something 60 Minutes. And if you follow my journey, I'm going to follow you back.
My question is, there's so much information, so I'm wondering if you will ever make like a movie about it.
Well, that's what we're working on. We're making a movie. Absolutely. now the rest of your family? What a great question. How did I feel when I found the rest of my family? I felt so honored because like so many of you, they've been gone for generations and no one has remembered them. No one's ever said their name. No one said Sandy Wills or Emma Wills before I found them. They literally disappeared. And you gotta understand, that's a big part of the plot. These were great people, strong people. If you could survive slavery, you are one of the strongest people on the planet Earth. And if you erase, if you pretend these people never existed, right? Then you have literally weakened their children because they don't have the benefit of knowing their story, right? So that's why I got so much information. That's why it was important for me to know. Thank you. That's excellent. You did a great job. What's your name? Hi, Jolie. What's your question?
My question was like, the first time you heard about your family's history, like, what was the first thing you wanted to do?
Oh, wow. The very first time was about 10 years ago. And the first thing I wanted to do was go back to Hayward County, Tennessee, because I had never been here. I'm a New Yorker like you, right? So I had never been there, but I didn't know where to go because my entire family left. Remember what I told you? They got out of here. So that was the first thing I wanted to do. And then I wanted to honor. It is so important to honor the ancestors. And I wanted to honor them, and I didn't know how until I realized they were buried in unmarked graves. So this is the best way for me to honor them. Thank you so much. Give her a hand. You were right there dancing your heart out. Can we give him a round of applause? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. What's your name?
Luke,
Hi, Luke. Luke, what's your question?
how did you get all this information and why are you so passionate about finding where your ancestors were and like the steps to finding your ancestors?
Brilliant question, and I love your passion in asking a question, Luke. So let's close with Luke's amazing question. Where did my passion come from? My passion, Luke, came from when I was your, how old are you? Like 12? When I was 12, I remember when I was 12. And Luke, life wasn't pretty. I was redlined, and let me tell you what that means. That right here in New York City, there were only certain places Black people could live. And real estate would draw red lines. Okay, they could live here, they could live here, they could live here. Some of you are still the product of that. And I was redlined in an area that had poor services, substandard schools, bars and liquor stores were right in our face. It's horrible. And so many of my little friends who were 12 didn't make it. They got caught up in gangs. They got caught up in street life. But it wasn't their fault. Let me tell you, I'm going to close with you. Because when you live in a society that says you can live in this box or this box or this box, and then they stack the deck against you, it's not impossible to get out. But some people, they don't have any fight left in them. They're in pain. It's called trauma. And we don't blame people for going through trauma. So my passion, Luke, comes for those who ain't here. And for me to say to all my little 12-year-old friends that didn't make it, I'm gonna make it for you. I won't let this world forget that you were here. I'm gonna be my best self in honor of every you. I'm never gonna let this world think you're not brilliant and bright and bold. So I do it for those who didn't make it. That's where the passion comes from. Everybody, listen, I wish we had more time. I I went over time, but I had the best time with you. And don't forget, watch New York 1 tonight. I'm Shout Now. I am Ricky
Scholars, knowing your ancestry. Let me tell you, I have lived. You all know that I was born, where was I? Trinidad. I never experienced racism until I came to America. Let me tell you a brief story about courage. Education was not my first job. I worked on Wall Street. And I remember I was due for a raise. Let me tell you how I got here. And I reminded my supervisor that my raise was due. And he said to me, I'll give you your raise when I feel like it. And I said to myself, he must not know where I came from. Because listen carefully there, this is where your ancestry comes in. I was raised by an uncle named Uncle Gibbons, and he taught us girls that we could do whatever we wanted to do and be whatever we wanted to do. And right now, if I were to call him right now on the phone, and we were about to hang up, he'd say to me, his last words are always, remember, Kimberly, take control. So I said to that supervisor, thank you very much. It's about time for me to leave Dean Witter Reynolds and go be what I was born to be. So by that September, I handed him my paperwork, and I said, I'm headed back to college. I said, he must think I'm a dummy. I said to myself, he doesn't know I went to Bishop Anstey High School in Trinidad, one of the most prestigious high schools in Trinidad, and here he's telling me he'll give me my raise when he felt like it. So that September, August morning, I was enrolled, re-enrolled, because I had stopped working, stopped going to college because I had my children, and I re-enrolled, and he had to sign the papers for me to leave early to get to school because the company was to reimburse me for my tuition. And that is how I left Dean Witter Reynolds and I came to work for the New York City Public School. And now, had it not been for my uncle who believed in education, hard work. So when I tell you every day, what do I say? Dream big and work hard. All right? Had it not been for my uncle, I would not be standing here today. So knowing your ancestors, I wish I could go through as far back as Miss Wills did, but I know about my grandmother. I know she had a parlor. I know all the people in my family had businesses. My mother owned a food truck. I know my great-grandmother had a parlor. My grandmother had a stall at the market, right? And now, this generation, my generation, all educated. Educated. My uncle raised girls, doctorates, some have their doctorates. Right now, my cousin's daughter is getting her PhD in human genetics. So, what we are learning today, and one more thing. We just got off that TSI list. We are no longer a school in poor standing. We are now a school in good standing. And this today was the kickoff of where we're headed. Especially where literacy is concerned and where knowing who we are, where we come from, and the power that lies within us. So I want you all to remember this day, March 28, 2023. We want to thank Ms. Wills because she has taken and thank the team for being here with us today. And scholars, you're awesome. Remember what we learned. Don't forget it. Very, very, very good. It has to come from here. Because when that man said that to me, I felt it here. I said to myself, he does not know who I am. And what did I tell you about the Wakanda movie? I said, my new mantra to you is what? Show them who you are. Show them who you are. Right? That's all we want to show. Thank you all so much. Give yourselves a big hand.
All right, so give Ms. Wills one more big IS.
If you would like to have your book signed, Ms. Wood and Ms. Blackman will direct you along Ms. Leverett to line up on this side.
Everyone have a seat. Everyone have a seat. We will do it class by class, 701. If you have a book, line up in this aisle. 701, if you have a book, line up.
Good job, man. Good job. Nee, good job. Really kind of, really kind.
They were so